Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Energy and Resources. Has Cabinet rejected indefinitely the recommendation he and the Minister of Conservation, Kate Wilkinson, made to consider mining 467,517 hectares of national park and protected conservation land?
Mr Speaker, quite apart from the fact that there was no proposal to mine that land, I have to say I do note the tricky wording of the question, so I reply the Cabinet has definitely rejected that early proposal.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, supplementary question. Why did the Cabinet decide not to follow his advice to remove protection from areas like Rakiura National Park, Kahurangi National Park and Mount Aspiring National Park?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Well, Mr Speaker, in the case of Rakiura, the discussion document asks New Zealanders to consider whether or not doing further aerial magnetic survey was a good idea.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. The question was quite specific. Why did they decide not to remove protection from the three areas? And that answer didn't really address that question at all.
Order. What I'll do is let the Honourable Leader of the Opposition repeat his question just so everyone can hear it clearly
to the Minister. Why did the Cabinet decide not to remove protection from Rakiura National Park, Kahurangi National Park and Mount Aspiring National Park?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Well, I'd say again, Mr Speaker, that the Cabinet decided that some aerial magnetic survey of Rakiura may be a good idea, and that's part of the discussion document, and that is a question that's being asked of New Zealanders. In the case of the other parts of the national park system, there were analysis also in the document that the member will have read, which led Cabinet to believe that it was not appropriate to open them up for further prospecting.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, why was it not appropriate to mine those three national parks, but it was appropriate to look at Coromandel and Great Barrier Island for mining?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, because in those cases Cabinet felt it was reasonable to ask New Zealanders if we should make available those tracts of land for further exploration. Simple.
Chris Sockenfold.
Supplementary to the Minister, Mr Speaker. Can the Minister give an example?
I apologise, the Honourable Member, but I say on this occasion to the Labour front benches it's hardly fair on the member asking a supplementary question when there's so much noise. Chris Sockenfold.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, can the Minister give an example of a mine that strikes a good balance between economic benefit and environmental sensitivity?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I would hope that all of the 118 permits issued by the previous government do comply in that regard. What I can say, Mr Speaker, I can do no better than quote to the member the words of a previous conservation minister who said when approving the Pike River mine that it was an area of high conservation value. When Pike River reaches full production, it will employ 150 people directly, it will employ another 450 indirectly, it will provide 1 million tonnes of coal a year that we added to the receipts for our current account, lots of jobs, and I want to ask Phil Goff if he's going to go back there next year, just as he did last year to try and reconnect with the Labour heartland, is he going to take Trevor Mallard's advice and go back next year and say, you're finished, you're out, sayonara? Of course he's not.
Supplementary
Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. When he said to the House yesterday, wrongly, that Labor was prepared and did mine in protected Schedule 4 land, was he referring to, as the media has since analysed it, a permit which was in fact granted when National was in power, or a permit which allowed gold and gem fossicking by an elderly man with a shovel, or was he referring to a permit granted before the relevant park had actually been gazetted as an area protected from mining?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, Mr Speaker, I referred in the House to a question I answered to David Garrett by pointing out that there were 2 permits for mining issued on Schedule 4 land by the previous government. That is absolutely correct.
Question, Mr Speaker.
The opposition.
Mr Speaker, how does he reconcile his statement now that the government's mining proposals are, quote-unquote, quite modest, with his earlier claim that mining would be a key to the step change in the New Zealand economy?
Well, Mr Speaker, quite simply, because...
Order, I apologise to the Minister, but members ask questions and either they want to hear the answers or they don't, but quite so much noise makes it very hard for anyone to hear the answers. The Honourable Jerry Brown.
Mr Speaker, my answer is quite simply that mining at the moment takes up 0.015% of New Zealand's land mass. If that were doubled, it would still be largely unnoticeable, but it would in fact provide some 4 to 5 billion in GDP. It could provide a similar amount in export receipts over a longer period of time. It is part of, and I've maintained this all the way through, a number of things that will lead to step change in the New Zealand economy. I would note that through the 5 years that Phil Goff was the Trade Minister for New Zealand, our exports went backwards. Now, I'm not surprised that he's advocating retrograde policies right now. He can't work out whether he's for, he doesn't know if he's against, and the good thing is he won't be leader for much longer.
Most of the last part of that answer was unnecessary. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker.
A point of order.
I apologise.
Order. No, order. This is getting a bit messy, altogether messy. I acknowledged a point of order and then couldn't even hear the point of order being made. I take it was not a genuine point of order, so we won't take further time on that. The Honourable point of order, the Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr Speaker, I understood that the Leader of the House stood to withdraw and apologise, and I wasn't clear whether that was to the House or to his own colleagues over his handling of this matter.
Oh. Now, order. The Honourable Darren Hughes knows that that's not a point of order, and for a member who's normally a model of discretion when it comes to the standing orders of the House, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. What is the Minister's response to the criticism from the New Zealand Tourism Industry Association that his proposals have already damaged New Zealand's image as 100% pure? And what is his response to The Economist that says that his proposals make New Zealand's promotion at an area like the Shanghai Expo an exercise in hypocrisy?
The Honourable Jerry Brown.
Well, I think, Mr Speaker, there are a couple of things that we should recognise. Firstly, Tourism New Zealand uses the Blue Lakes in central Otago with the 100% New Zealand pure logo over the top to promote tourism. Those lakes, of course, were only there because of a previous mining activity on the site, which is really quite interesting. The second point I'd make, I see. So old-fashioned mining that does all the damage can now be used to promote New Zealand tourism. That's Phil's position. Might I say, Mr Speaker, also, I note that Australia and Canada and other countries around the world do not have a problem in attracting tourism, although they do promote their mining sector very vigorously.
Question number 2, David Bennett. Order, I've called... Order, I'm on my feet, I say to the Honourable Jerry Brownlee on this occasion. And I've called his colleague at the back of the House to ask his question, David Bennett.
Mr Speaker, my question